I've always been incredibly proud of my Indigenous heritage. The Indigenous culture in Australia is still here. There aren't any plans of my people going away.
So just starting right off, Cathy, what was there a conscious decision by you to start to integrate the struggle of your people into your celebrations? And if so, how did you conclude that it was the right thing to do?
Well, I guess because I am so big on family, Michael, I am a family orientated person. Family for me is where my identity starts, and I've tried to bury that and tried to be in denial about that, but there's just simply it's futile because it's just truth. It's all truth. So, and out of family, and part of my identity has always been culture, and in terms of struggle, you know, Indigenous people in Australia, especially even of my generation, very much still carry those struggles. And they're not necessarily shared verbally, but they're absolutely felt between, for example, daughter and mother, child, parent, granddaughter, grandparent. And so, you know, that kind of struggle was absolutely evident in the degree of confidence that for example, my grandparents had or my parents had. It was very normal to sort of feel ashamed of being a Black person, and you know, children are only a kind of an extension of what they see and what they feel in their own homes, and excuse me. And so it wasn't until well and truly into my kind of career life that I could kind of look at my childhood in that sense, kind of analytically and critically, and sort of check myself and think, well, and ask myself, why did I feel that way? Why did my kids who are other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander kids who are also termed Indigenous, why were we so ashamed of who we were? And it was definitely a learned behaviour, but I guess as you get older and you read books and you learn more about the history of your own sort of people, the world, things become clearer, you know? So, I mean, you can't be Indigenous in Australia and not understand struggle. It just goes together.
Yeah.
That's the history of Australia.
Yeah. Yeah. Was there a sense of carrying Aboriginal people and Aboriginal culture through, all of your success?
Oh, well, I've always been really, really determined to always acknowledge my ancestors. I've always been incredibly proud of my Indigenous heritage. I've got, very much the values that I've carried are very important to me, and I'd like to. In fact, I know that I'm a woman of integrity, so, and I'll always honour, my those values that I know will always be dear to me. And going back to family and identity and culture, ancestors. So I always viewed myself as a continuum of the stories of my ancestors. And so for this type of stories that my ancestors have experienced, especially in the last 200 years, around 200 years of colonisation in Australia, it was important for me to kind of change that narrative of struggle and turn it into something positive, a tale of resilience, and to emphasize how, the Indigenous culture in Australia is still here, after 65,000 years, and we don't really there aren't any plans of my people going away, despite the efforts
Yeah.
there of the past of
Right.
some.